Monday noon, the time is here. Shane and I'll be loud and clear. Pacific vibes, we bring the heat. AI agents can't be beat. AI agents hour, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Solving problems, we do it live. Stay informed, it's a vibe. Building agents that work for you. Making moves, we see it through. Every week, a brand new show. Tag along and watch your knowledge grow. AI agents hour, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Answering questions, we arrive. Every Monday, come alive. We want reviews, but only if it's a 5. We share the drama, we got the drive. Stay in the loop, it's the place to be. Shane and I'll be setting you free. Tune in Mondays, make your day. From the news to the problem solved. AI world, get involved.
Every week in AI, something insane happens.
And there's so much drama. Every Monday, we break it down live.
We do the news, we bring on guests, building in the space.
And we go deep into the stuff that actually matters.
Agents Hour, every Monday, noon Pacific.
Follow, don't miss it. Peace.
This is Agents Hour with Shane Thomas and Abi Iyer.
All right, welcome everybody. This is Agents Hour. And if you're watching this live, you'll realize it's not Monday. It's not noon Pacific. It's about noon Pacific, but it's Tuesday today. Had to reschedule. Thanks for the guests for being flexible. You know, normally we do this every Monday. And if it's your first time listening, I'm Shane. I'm one of the co-founders of Mastra. I'm here with my buddy, my co-founder, one of my co-founders, Abi. What's up, dude?
What up?
How are things going?
Things are good, man. It's a nice day in SF. As you can see, I'm wearing a cool-ass shirt.
Yeah, you went to the Giants game.
Went to the Giants game on Saturday. They were giving out these shirts, dude.
Dude, I had massive FOMO. I saw the picture with you and Sherwood and a couple other people, and I was like, okay, I missed out. I was in the wrong SF. I was in the wrong SF that day.
Yeah, it was a great game. It was kind of cloudy, but that stadium, if anyone hasn't gone yet, like Giant Stadium is super nice. Oracle Park. But the Giants still suck. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, we do this every week. We cover all the AI news. We cover all the drama. We kind of keep you updated. We like to think it's the fastest way for you to keep updated with all the stuff that's going on if you care about AI agents, agentic applications. If you have watched many times and you are a repeat listener and you haven't given us a review, please go do that. As long as it's a 5-star review, we only accept the 5 stars. If you want something else, please find something else to do. We don't need it. But we did a sweet workshop today. Well, we called it a webinar. It's the first time we ever did something called a webinar. Yeah. It's kind of it felt weird. We do workshops, but today we did a webinar. It was weird.
Dude, it was really good though. There was so much activity in the chat. A lot of good questions. Yeah. Everyone should go watch it because we revealed our 3-month roadmap that we are actively working on. Any highlights for you from that you're excited about?
First of all, you can't go watch it right now and I don't know exactly why. I think, and I'm not sure. I haven't had a chance. It was earlier today. I think it's because I played Marvin's demo, and Marvin, you're here, you're watching. I think it's because I played Marvin's demo and it had music that we probably shouldn't have been able to play, and I think they copyright claimed us. So I don't know what
you can watch it on X.
Yeah, you can watch it on X. We have all the recordings, so we will post the video. It will be out there. You just got to give us a little bit of time. We'll post it. It will exist. We'll clip the audio at that part if we need to. Although it was a banger track. I would rather just give that the artist credit, and we will hopefully be able to get it back, because it was a sick demo. But you know, it was essentially on the entire roadmap. It wasn't everything, of course. Like, we do keep some things, but we try to be very transparent, especially on the framework and the open source side, what we're shipping, what we're planning on shipping, so you can plan for it, you can be prepared when it lands, and you can hopefully adopt it right away if you've been looking forward to it. And so I think the biggest thing was just really great audience participation. And if you're watching this live, participate in this chat too. We loved it. We'd love to hear from you. We'll display your chat on the screen, and please drop questions for the guests that we bring on today as well.
They didn't even pull any punches too. Those like hard questions too.
Yeah, I mean, they were not afraid to definitely ask some of the challenging questions. So, but that's good. That means they were interested.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I think this is probably time. We do have a couple guests today, so a little preview of the show. We have a guest from Edo.ai. You might not have heard of it yet, or maybe you're already using it, but we have Evan coming in from Edo.ai, and then we have Dev, who's a longtime listener of the show. Yeah, I see you, Dev, always in the chat, or at least often in the chat, not every time.
First-time guest.
But first-time guest coming in from PowerSync. They're both going to do demos. We're going to ask them a little bit of background. So we have two guests today. It's going to be kind of a fast-paced show. Going to keep it short because we have a ton of news as well. So let's go ahead. Let's bring on Evan. Let's start with our first guest.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for being here, Evan. Maybe just quick introduction is usually the best place to start. Can you give us a little intro? You know, who are you? What are you working on? And then I know Abhi and I have a lot of questions for you.
Absolutely. So my name's Evan Marshall. I'm the CTO of Edo AI, and we build the verification layer for AI-generated code. Essentially, the problem is really simple. The bottleneck of code development has moved to QA, and we don't really have great tools to automate and scale QA, so that's why we built Edo. Edo is a code review tool that actually runs your code. So in your code reviews, you get end-to-end testing and integration testing, you get screenshots, videos, and run logs associated with your PR.
I definitely feel the burn, especially recently as models got better, that you might get a fix out in 1 minute, but to verify the fix takes like exponential more time. So you actually have way more PRs just sitting, rotting to die. How do you guys solve this problem? Like, are users still required to write these end-to-end tests, or you're like doing some magic for people?
Yeah, so it's not magic so much as it is like a workflow of swarms that is creating observability and accountability for agents. So right now, I would say that like code review tools like Reptile and CodeRabbit are sort of like the unit test layer of AI code review. And what Edo aims to solve is the integration and end-to-end test layer. So you get observability, you get to see what the changes actually look like without having to click around in a preview environment or pull the changes locally. You get logs and proof that things are actually working the way you expect them to. So we're noticing that teams move faster, and the sort of like clicking around and struggling maintaining your preview environments or pulling things locally just to see what an agent did, that is sort of a temporary problem that we're working on making disappear.
So yeah, how'd you come up with the company and the idea? Where was like the genesis?
Yeah, like back when I was in college, I was really into scraping. So I love scraping like social media and doing data analysis, and I hated like clicking around. And when I started using like Claude Code, I was just like clicking around way too much. So I was like, why can't the machines like click around for me? And you follow that path enough steps, and you know, it started with like QAing READMEs. I was like, what if I just tested if someone's README worked? And then it kind of evolved into, wow, I can actually have like AI check my changes. if I'm trying to test out new tools, I can have it set up new tools for me. And then we try to take those pieces and make them a product.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think one of the things is a lot of things that a lot of teams that we work with are always talking about, okay, what's a harness? And I know, like, is Ito a harness? Is Master a harness? There's a lot of questions around just like harness engineering. How did you think about that when you're building Ito? Would you consider Ito a harness itself? How should others be thinking about it? And I know it's just kind of a buzzword that everyone's using, but there's a lot of interest and a lot of people are asking, how should they be thinking about harnesses these days?
Yeah, I feel like the models haven't been improving as much since like Opus 4.5. That was where I think you saw so many things change. And then since then it's felt more incremental. Like definitely getting better, but not like, thing. So how do you get more value? It's the harness, right? If your model is essentially fixed in capability, you need a harness. And internally, we joke around that we have like a carriage, right? It's like a bunch of harnessed horses, like all trying to work together. And really, it's experimental. It's actually so much fun to program these types of things, but the way I think about harness engineering is it's very experimental. You need to spend a lot of time and effort sort of managing your own internal eval sets because you can't, at some point, external benchmarks are not reflective of the behavior of your system.
I like the concept or the visual I get when I think of a carriage. It's like it's not just a harness. This is a full carriage. Yeah, I mean, I think there's been two sides to this coin that I've seen people. And at Mostra, I know what side we're on. It sounds like we're probably maybe on the same side, which is, you actually want to add a bit more to your harness because adding more features around how you engineer the harness can actually help you get results, especially if, and I do believe this too. Like, it seems like model growth is still there, but it's slowing down a little bit. And I think there's others that are saying you need a very thin harness and then just let the model do the work. And so I think there's two sides to that. I guess sounds like you're maybe more on the, like, a little bit more into the harness itself, but how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think more about sort of like boundaries and capabilities. So something that's been really important for designing Ito is to have like deterministic boundaries and verification and sort of like if you tell the agent what to do, right, it's going to do worse as the models get better because the model will think of like more creative and better approaches that you may not have thought. And so your harness is always decaying. But if you create a deterministic boundary and goal for an agent and say like your goal is to get to this deterministic check that I can verify and then not have like compounding probabilistic errors accumulate in my system, that allows you to sort of benefit from agents improving and to say like, okay, today are my goals too complex for a single agent or do I have to break them into sub goals? In general, I find that like having agents with really powerful environments is how you sort of get the most value out of them. So like the environments that we run our agents in are fully featured VMs. They're big sandboxes with high walls, right, to prevent them from escaping. But I find that like if you the best thing you could do to like make an agent worse, if you were trying to make your agents worse, you would give them more goals, right? You would say do this thing and this thing, and then it doesn't know how to like prioritize between those two different goals. So I think if you're designing your agent systems, you should sort of break tasks not by like capabilities in terms of like do step A, step B, and step C, but in terms of what are the natural goals, right? And that's what we're already seeing in code development. That's why like we have, code review bots and code gen bots because fundamentally they're different goals.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Like, it really comes down to like decomposition, but not in a way that is like, the step A through B. It's more like you're taking like a big idea and breaking it down into things that can be swarmed or pulled in a carriage, I guess. Um, What do you think is like? Let's say Claude Code is the typical harness, and let's say let's use Opus as an example of the typical model. What is the delta? Like, what's the gap there for people to build better harnesses? Like, what's the feature set look like from just the model to doing things that are more efficient?
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of infra and this task decomposition that you're saying. So like for us, something that like people ask about in terms of like QA is like, oh, can't I just use Claude with Playwright? And then it's like, well, do you want to watch that on your local machine or do you need an environment? Okay, you need an environment. How are you going to maintain it, right? So it's all these tasks that if you had sort of like the perfect prompt every single time, maybe, but there's a lot of like guardrails and designing these workflows so that you can basically turn what is, you know, many prompts and a lot of waiting for a user into a single async flow, right? So I think that like in terms of building these harnesses, it really depends. Like the thinner your harness, probably the more general the task, right? But if you can decompose and like understand your task and your workflow really well, then you can get a lot of benefit by designing a better harness. And I think in our case, building infra for that harness.
And I think that's been very much proven out for those of you who maybe haven't looked. If you go and look at, I think it's Terminal Bench, and you see that Opus scores very high in Terminal Bench, but the harness actually makes a significant difference in scoring. And actually, Claude Code's not the highest scoring harness that uses Opus on Terminal Bench. So the harness engineering clearly does matter, and maybe those are very specific to do well at that benchmark. But as you said, I think there is a combination of you need infra, because actually running Terminal Bench is very hard. You need the right infra to even run it. But it's tied to infra, it's tied to harness engineering. There's a lot to it that I think maybe some people don't fully understand if they haven't spent a lot of time in it. And I think you had a demo and you wanted to show a little bit more around like how Ito actually works.
Yeah, let me share my screen and sort of like I'll show you what it looks like running in practice. So I just kicked off a few runs on Ito against a few different repos. So this is kind of what I expect code reviews to look like in the future. And this is like our version of it. You can also see like this sort of like integration as a PR comment that you would expect from like other code review. But this is sort of what I imagine that like observability at the PR level looks like in the future. So you get like an actual video of this is Ito running post-hog entirely by itself. There was no human intervention. There was no human configuration. Of course, in some cases, human configuration can allow the model to be, steered better, but this is like a PR about fixing a bug, and you get actual sort of like logs and videos case by case. If you think of a way to make the back end videos prettier, let me know. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so you get like reproduction steps, you get anything that was stubbed or mocked to do the tests. I'll go through a couple examples. We find a lot of issues that are more sort of on the integration and end-to-end type, right? So a lot of security issues, a lot of like weird states that most humans wouldn't even find, like rapid remounting, like can create problems and have like stale side effects. Um, and I think that like if you're running like really full agentic loops, this is where you're actually going to use tools like Ito to be really close to the product, right? If someone implements a feature like and you get 1,000 line diff, like what are you actually going to do to like make sure that things work as you expect? I also ran it on Excalidraw. That's like probably my favorite open source whiteboarding tool. But it's pretty straightforward and pretty obvious when you think about where code review is going, it's going to something like Ito, where you get videos, you get screenshots, you get code analysis, all directly like this next layer of observability.
And the test cases here are from the code bases themselves that you're running, their test cases, or are these new test cases?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Let me stop sharing. I can see the chat too. So test cases are generated by the PR. So one of the limitations right now of like, how do you do QA? It's a combination of two things. It's manual, right? Humans clicking buttons, and then end-to-end test suites. Now, end-to-end test suites are very limited because you have to run them in CI all the time. And they're very fragile. You have to maintain them. And there are tools to make that easier, but it's still not a great experience. So what Ito says is like, hey, let me scale my manual testing that right now is probably just some basic checks around very core flows, and let me put all that on the PR. So these tests don't propagate to CI, and they're generated based on the actual code diff. So and whatever integrations, the company has added. So we go a lot deeper, right? So if you added up like all of the test cases you'd have across all of your PRs, right? If we're adding 30 to 50 test cases per PR, right? Very quickly, could you be in the many of thousands, and it'd be super unreasonable to run it in CI.
And is that because you guys go into like a test plan mode where you're trying to figure out based on the PR, these are the test cases, you run them. What if the test cases aren't correct? Like, how are you evaluating that?
Yeah, so test case alignment is huge. Requesting user feedback and sort of like we dog food our own product, right? We use Ito to build Ito is sort of like the first line of defense, but really customer feedback is like the biggest thing in making sure that we're aligned there. There are sort of like other metrics in our eval set of like how successfully can we complete a test case, right? How, our system doesn't always like successfully complete every single test case it can imagine. That's easier to measure. Test case alignment is a really sort of like more nebulous concept that really depends on user interaction.
And do they align when the PR is open? Like they see what's been generated and then they can comment and adjust the test plan, or is that it just runs for that PR and that gives feedback for the next time?
Yeah, you just like tell it like, hey, I didn't care about this test case, or like test this, right? In terms
and it'll re-roll.
Yeah, and it runs on every commit too.
Okay, cool. Dang, that's tight.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's a lot of fun to build. I've been a professional programmer for like 15 years, if I count internships in college, and it's like so much fun to build with these systems and see like the surprising things that they're capable of.
How big is your team?
We're 14 people right now, mostly engineers.
Nice. And so who do you see as your, the common person that says like, okay, I should try Ito? Who are the target? Who are the people that are like beating down your door to say like, yes, I want to try this, and they're having good success with it?
Yeah, it's more enterprise, right? So the big challenge is like if you follow the X hype, it's like I should be anywhere from 10x to 100x on my code velocity, and bigger organizations like aren't realizing it. They're probably like 50% faster, maybe twice the speed, but they're nowhere near the hype. And the problem is that their products are like combinatorial explosions of features, and like they have super high stakes if something goes wrong, right? It could be existential. So their validation layer like doesn't exist yet, and that's the biggest like there's a mandate from the C-suite that it's like, hey, we're gonna have like token leaderboards and everyone has to adopt these tools, but the engineers like don't feel comfortable, right? Because they've just seen too many things sneak through. I don't know, like if you look at like the GitHub status page, it looks like a Christmas tree. Right? There's like
and Anthropic. Yeah, both.
Right. That's what they're worried about, is like if you're like a healthcare company or fintech company, and like you have real customers and it's going to cost you so much money, you would just accept a lower code velocity, right? But there's the mandate to go faster because your competitors are going faster.
Yeah, looks like we have a good question in the chat here, Sebastian. Shane, if you want to put it on the screen.
Yeah. Sebastian says, let's say I have a massive end-to-end test collection built with Playwright that we actually run with heavy caching. Could Ito run them selectively or use them as a basis for how to test behavior in the app?
Yeah, so part of like our Ito's like onboarding for a repository is discovering like what already exists. It's actually going to like want to test real flows. So if there's like a database service that's kind of like mocked by an in-memory object, Ito's actually going to spin up that database. We use dev containers under the hood, which is kind of like Docker Compose / Docker files with a little like lifecycle attached to them. So it will be informed by the end-to-end test collection, but unless you're doing an issue that is editing that code, it will not use them directly. So one thing that's also kind of cool about Ito is the videos are horrible for these types of test cases, but it can run developer tooling, right? Like if you update an ESLint config, it'll actually like run the commands in its bash and double check that like there aren't new type errors or something isn't misconfigured. It can do back-end test cases. But if you edit the end-to-end test cases, it will actually like run them, but otherwise for other like normal test cases, it'll just be informed by them.
Awesome. Well, Evan, really appreciate you coming on. What's the best way for people to either get in touch with you or try out Ito?
Yeah, it's super easy to sign up for Ito. You just go to ito.ai and sign up, connect a repo, and you're off and running. You don't have to add a credit card or anything like that to try it out. And I'll throw my email in the chat if anyone wants to reach out to me.
All right. Well, definitely appreciate you coming on, telling us a little bit about Ito. I think just, there is definitely something to this idea of we can ship more software. How do we ship more software safely? And so it's always cool to talk to folks who are deep into trying to help solve that problem of how do we ship faster, but still making sure that we have the quality and we don't end up looking like a Christmas tree on our status report graphs. All right. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. See ya.
Bye.
Dude, did you subscribe?
Dude, I host the show. Did you subscribe?
Did you subscribe?
Subscribe to Agents Hour every Monday, noon Pacific.
Agents Hour here to stay. Tune in Mondays, make your day. From the news to the problem solved. AI will get involved.
That was new.
Dude, I was just going to say, Jan's on fire.
Yeah.
All right, Jan.
That was cool.
Up in your game over there. Producer Jan. All right, I did, before we bring on our next guest, Evan brought up something, and you had a post actually today on Slack that I want to share with folks, because I think it's funny. He said the status graph looks like a Christmas tree, and you know what I'm going to show, I'm sure.
Yeah, show it, dude. Show it.
So yeah, let me find it here. Avi sent this in our Slack today. The outage graph is starting to look like gummy hamburgers.
Dude, that's the Claude status page right now, y'all.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cool talking to Evan, learning a little bit about Ito. I think code review in general is an unsolved problem. I had talked to Sam about it, and he posted a tweet, and there's some other folks working on trying to solve the problem. I think there's just like this bottleneck of PR reviews, and I feel it with us. And you don't want to speed it up too much because you don't want to release bad quality and end up looking like, a GitHub graph. But you also want to figure out, like, how do you move software through the system faster and more efficiently and safely? So that's cool. All right. Should we bring on the next guest?
Let's do it.
All right. We have Dev here. How's it going,
Welcome, Dev?
It's going well. I'm very happy to be here. Long time listener, long time fan of Mastra. Yeah, happy to be talking to you guys.
Well, maybe Yeah, maybe kick us off and get us started. Tell us a little bit about you. What's your background? What are you working on? Tell the audience. And they've probably seen you in the chat if they're fans of the show.
Probably, yeah. So my name, I like to say my name is Dev and I'm a dev. That joke never gets old. I've been basically building like full stack applications for about 8 or 9 years now. Currently, I work as a DevRel engineer for PowerSync. I've been making YouTube videos for a couple years now, though that's been like very heavily been on the back burner or like kind of on a hiatus for the last year. I'm also a core team member of Solid.js, so I've been actively trying to like build the second version of Solid.js. So it's a lot of like fun trying to dive deep into JavaScript frameworks. I'm pretty sure you guys know all about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to work with Ryan at Netlify back in the day. Yeah, Solid.js is sick. And it's also cool that like open code and other UI are using Solid over React. So
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
like there was some point when Cursor was using it for a little bit. I don't know if they're still using it for their new product or not, but yeah, open code definitely big user for Solid. Yeah, and something I've also been like just building kind of AI apps for a little over a year now, just trying a bunch of different things. And most recently, I've been building this thing called Power Chat, which is kind of like a vague idea that I have for like what would be what would like accurately kind of replace Slack for me. So yeah, I think that's
Okay, we need to
how
talk. Yeah, we got to talk about this because I have a lot of opinions on this, and so yeah, Jan's
Shoot.
going to be in my ear time checking me pretty soon, I'm sure, because I think we could talk for an hour on just multi-agent, multi-user environments. I think most agent interactions are single player mode. And so my question has always been, what's the best interface for multiplayer agent interaction? And my answer has always been, well, Slack is probably the best we have today. And so it sounds like you maybe have something better. And so now you've piqued my interest. I am leaning in. Tell me about Power Chat, because I haven't seen it. I know I think I may have seen a tweet from you, but I haven't really dug in. So tell me about it.
Yeah, definitely. So Power Chat kind of started as an exploration like months ago of what would like a multi-agent, multi-user collab look like. And the very basic idea that I had in my head was just that just we have channels in Slack. What if we just have agents as users where like when I send a message in Slack, I can add Shane and it'll mention you. So what if I add agent or add the name of the agent, and that's how I give it its task. And if I have multiple agents in the channel, the agent can simply like send another message with like add agent 2 and delegate some tasks to someone else. So that was kind of like the simplest idea of sending messages in a channel and just simply like invoking agents with an at mention, just like you would mention a user. That kind of very quickly turned into like a fireball because like if you actually just let them delegate tasks to each other without any structure at all, like currently if you go to ChatGPT, you give it a prompt, there's a stop button, you can stop it. But if you just let agents delegate tasks to each other unbounded, it's like you like kind of lose control over being able to stop or steer them at all. So very quickly, like those concerns have to be built into the platform, whatever you're using.
And so how did you actually think about how do you solve it then with Power Chat, or what have you experimenting with to try to solve that problem? Because I've thought of that as well. Is it's easy to interact with. It's easy in Slack to have one agent and multiple humans interacting with that agent. But yes, you're right. When you can have one agent interact with another agent, how do you steer it at that point?
Yeah, that's a great question that I've kind of like conveniently sidestepped over the last like a month or so, and then like focused on something completely else. So what I ended up doing was just like, let's put the multi-agent part on the back burner and let's focus on the multi-user first, because that's still something that so like very few people are actually exploring. I feel like multi-agent, a lot of people are exploring that, but it's all like single user multi-agent rather than like multi-user multi-agent. So I'll let the like smarter people figure out like how to orchestrate agents together. Let me first focus on building an actual UI that that like I can have multiple people in the same workspace in the same area and talking to the same agent, because that's still where a lot of the value lies. Because a lot of times, like when we are talking to each other, when we are talking to teammates, there's so much context that gets built up there that kind of gets lost. And like you can kind of like try to use like Slack agents or linear agents to restore some of that. But yeah, I was trying to build like one platform for it. And then when the smart people figure out multi-agent, I'll bring it into the platform.
Yeah. So I know I have a lot of questions around how you built PowerChat in like what's under the hood, but maybe it'd be cool to see. Do you have a demo that we could see first?
Yes.
And then I'm sure Abhi and I will have questions on just like, okay, how did you actually build it?
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
But
And
sometimes seeing is believing.
Yeah, definitely. And how it was actually built is definitely going to be interesting, because I'm using like some of the latest master primitives and I'm very happy with them. So let me share. Can I share? Okay, I can just share a Chrome tab. There we go. Is it up on screen?
It is starting to
Perfect.
load here.
So, okay. You guys see it yet?
It is
Not
still.
yet.
Yeah, it looks like it's still loading.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you need to give it a retry once.
I see it. Let me just do my entire screen, because why not?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a network thing or what. We'll see if this works.
How about now?
Still, yeah, still. I see 3 dots blinking. The nice thing is, if you're tuning in live, you get to see this for real. If you are watching later, you're not going to see any of this.
Okay.
There it is.
Hey, there it is.
Nice.
All right, I saw it.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, we're
Perfect.
We're live.
So
we're back.
Okay, so the basic interface is pretty. We see everything?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so the basic interface is pretty similar to Slack. So also I'm asking because I don't see Riverside anymore. I'm only seeing this on my screen.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, so on the left we have channels. We only have 2 of them for now. We have like our users. We can have agents in the channel, so they're like a first-class citizen. And I have another channel here. So basically I can just go ahead and say agent, I don't know, tell me about Mastra. And it's going to hopefully, okay. Demo gods are not with me today because something broke in here. Let me try in this channel. Hello. Okay. So I'm not started thinking. It took a while. Yeah, so basically the idea is agents are part of we still have this aspect where you can add agent, and that's how you trigger it. You can just send a normal message here that's not going to trigger the agent, because this is like just a regular channel. And I can open this in another tab from this other user's account, and I'll be able to see the same messages in real time as well. Looks like it's taking a while to think here. But here it came up with a response pretty quick. So hello, how can I help you?
And I don't know if we're seeing, we're just seeing one tab. Oh, now it popped in. Now I see it. Okay. Just a little latency there.
Okay. Okay, so I'll try to stay on one tab here then. Yeah, tell me about this project. So yeah, so that's the first thing, that we have agents within channel. And the second thing is that you can see it's exploring the current workspace, because each channel also has a file system and a sandbox. So basically each channel, like in PowerChat, which is kind of like a Slack channel, gets an entire master workspace where it has like a file system where we can see that it has cloned a couple different repos. Earlier, I had asked it to clone and analyze the PowerChat code base. So basically, like I have the PowerChat code base within PowerChat, and yeah, it has all the file system tools. Like I don't think I need to explain like agent sandboxes and file systems at this point. Like most people are super familiar with the idea.
Yeah.
But this is just an attempt at making that workspace environment collaborative. So I can ask it to do some tasks here, like go ahead and make some changes, and I'll be able to see all the like the entire file system in real time. And I have like a very simple like markdown viewer here, but obviously I'm going to have like a better file viewer and a proper like markdown viewer here so that we can look at the files in here. Right now, like you just see text. Yeah, so that's the general idea. And obviously like this is real time, so I can demo it. I don't know if we have time to get into it, but I could demo like opening the same channel in a different tab with a different login and seeing everything in real time. But if we don't have the time for it, you'll have to take my word that it works.
Yeah, I think we'll take your word that it's it's a real-time chat. But I think we do have some questions probably on just how you actually built it. You mentioned using workspaces under the hood. I believe I'm assuming you're using Solid.js. Are you using Solid.js for this?
Yes.
Yeah,
so this is built using Solid Start, PowerSync, and Mastra. That's the stack. And
nice. And so tell me, you mentioned it just briefly earlier, but tell me what is PowerSync doing in this application?
Yeah, good question. So PowerSync basically is responsible for synchronizing all the state on the backend on my Postgres database with a local SQLite database. So it's actually really convenient that I have this open here. I don't need to like go into a separate thing to like kind of describe the stack. Yeah, but basically this entire UI kind of operates off this local SQLite database. Like there is nothing in my front end here that makes an API request to my server side code that makes a query against the database and comes back with results. All the reads come from a local SQLite database, and all the reads are reactive. So whenever there's any changes in the Postgres database, those changes stream in real time to the SQLite database, and the SQLite database will rerun the query and update the UI. So this makes the entire like logic of data fetching and cache validation and like all of that just disappears, and everything is just like reactive queries against the local database. So that's and then the second part is obviously when I do anything in here. So for example, when I send a message, all that the UI simply just adds this to the SQLite database, like the messages table, and that's it. The front end doesn't have to do anything. That change goes to the backend, gets processed by the backend, gets written to my Postgres database, and then the backend is responsible for like parsing the message and saying like, hey, did I mention an agent in this message? If I did, then the backend is going to trigger the agent. So in a way that the UI almost has no knowledge of the agent. It's just rendering data and adding adding and updating data in the database, and all the integration happens on the backend side.
That's very cool. And like PowerSync, I guess I've heard that 2026 is the year of sync.
Yes.
What other benefits are there for these types of agent interactions with a like local first? Or is it still called local first, or is it just sync now, like the sync approach?
Yeah, I would say like local first is a much smaller subset of like sync in general. Like sync engines are much more broadly applicable because like every application to some extent has to synchronize some data from the client to the server. And the main breakthrough there was like partial sync, because most sync engines at this point will need to synchronize the entire database. But the newer sync engines, and like PowerSync is not new, PowerSync is pretty old, but like a lot of these other sync engines are capable of synchronizing like very small subsets, like only what the user needs. Imagine if I have like 1,000 channels here. I don't want I probably don't want the data of all 1,000 of them. So I only have to load the ones that I actually need. So that's how like the sync can be much more broadly applicable, not just local first. And in terms of like what are some specific advantages, I actually have a series of blog posts talking about these on the PowerSync blog. But one of the main problems with like integrating AI applications is like the SSE streams or the HTTP streams, which tend to break a lot. Like you make a request from the client to the server makes a request to the LLM, and if that connection like drops at all, if the client server connection, like maybe the client refreshes or navigates to a different tab or any sort of a network failure, the LLM stream is completely locked. You can't, unless you do, you have like some sort of a durable, you have to recover it, unless you do something like that. So that like even if I refresh, I can connect to the same stream. This is a pretty big problem, which different kind of cloud providers have solutions. But one great solution is just using a sync engine, because on the server side, as you receive tokens from the LLM, you can just keep writing them to your Postgres database. You don't need to stream them back to the client. You just write them to your Postgres database, and PowerSync takes care of syncing them to the client and like having the response appear here in real time. So it eliminates like a complete category of problems that you have if you are streaming LLM responses through HTTP or server sent events.
Awesome. Awesome, Dev. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show, telling us a little bit about PowerChat, PowerSync. Yeah, appreciate you obviously being in the chat most weeks as well. Dropping a lot of good questions along the way. How should folks connect with you? Is it best to go to the PowerSync blog, read some of your posts? Are there other ways that they should stay connected?
Yeah, my Twitter, I'm eternally online on Twitter, so that's going to be the best place. And like maybe in a few weeks or so, there might be a new video on my YouTube channel.
Yes, I know the feeling of wanting to get more YouTube videos out, and for many years I had a lot of videos, and then I stopped for a while. Then you can always go back, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's the best way if you want to see what Dev is up to. Dev, we appreciate you coming on the show, and we'll be interested to chat with you more in the future, and see you in the chat, of course.
Thank you very much for letting me ramble on.
No, it's great.
Yeah, it was great. All right, see you, Dev.
See ya. Like, share, and subscribe.
And follow us on X.
And tell your friends.
And their friends.
I mean, we're not begging.
Well, maybe a little bit.
Subscribe to Agents Hour every Monday, noon Pacific. That was new too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. You know what that reminded me of? That conversation with Dev at the end? He was talking about like all these old sync engines just sync everything, and then now these other sync engines just sync the stuff that matters. And I was like, oh, it's like all old build engines build everything, and Gatsby build engine just incremental builds. I had like PTSD of like incremental builds when he was talking about that. I'm like, oh no, incremental builds.
I do think this 2026 is the sync engine year, because you could either do multiplayer agents with WebSockets, or you could try just syncing, local DBs, and you kind of get the same effect. But then I always worry about the reliability of a sync engine, because I don't know, no one's really cracked it yet, but maybe PowerSync has.
Yeah, I think that is the thing. The technology itself though is really cool. Like if it all works, it's almost like a magical experience, right?
Yeah, I just know when it doesn't work, it hurts. So
yeah, but then again, WebSockets aren't the most fun to work with either.
Those hurt as well. Those hurt as well.
All right. Well, I think now is the time. We got a ton of news to cover, so we should just get into it, huh?
Let's jump in.
Yeah, let's get into the news. If you're just tuning in, this is Agents Hour. We're here. It's not Monday today, it's Tuesday. We started around noon Pacific time, and we're going to talk about the news. There's a lot of drama this week, a lot of things to cover, and so it's probably best if we just jump right in.
There's lawsuits. There's a bunch of shit going on.
Here's a little preview with, a friend and some logos. But let's start off with this. I saw this the other day, and it says, an AI agent just destroyed our production data, and it confessed in writing. So essentially, it was a cursor agent, a railway API, and essentially it just destroyed a bunch of data, and it was non-recoverable or barely able to be recovered. There were things that were unrecoverable because of this.
Dude, it's super crazy that this happened because the agent went off path. It found environment variables that existed in a different folder and assumed that those were the staging credentials, deleted the volumes because they're trying to do some cleanup on staging, deleted the volumes, and in Railway, the backup volumes are within the main volume, so literally just destroyed everything. And then when asked, it confessed about what exactly it did and how it did not follow the rules, which caused a bunch of drama on X, of course, and Railway was right there. They did resolve this. They did get the backup data back, but it was like 48 hours until. Must have been very stressful on the Railway side, right? Like to recover this shit. But it's almost like a horror case, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that everyone fears, right? Is that the agent goes off the rails and does something really bad, and then the thing is, I've seen both sides of this, right? The one side is blaming the user, like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, but the other side is like, well, should we have our agents be able to do that? Is this really a user error? I mean, it is, of course, it is. But there's also like the expectation that it probably shouldn't do this. It should be smart enough not to do this. And so I see both sides of that argument. But of course, this guy got hammered on from people just blaming him and saying like, you're the idiot of the bunch, which,
that's
I just
not
know
entirely fair, Yeah,
it's
kind of bullshit.
Yeah. So with that, let's talk. And we have a lot to get through, so we can't spend as much time as I would like on this. But are we hitting like a wall? It feels like, and we had a guest earlier who said that 4.5 was this moment back in like November, December timeframe when a lot of people discovered it. And now it feels like everything is just incremental. So if we hit a wall again, where the progress just seems to be slowing down. And there's some evidence of this, and we'll go through a few of these, and we'll talk about it. This was kind of funny that some law firm had some basically legal slop in their filings. You're paying a lot of money for a law firm to use ChatGPT or another tool. There's a story of vibe-coded disasters piling up on Reddit. So if you just let the agent write the code, you're going to get a huge mess at the end. That's what a lot of people are starting to say. People have been saying it for a while, but it's really starting to heat up. This Henson Wong, that's a play on words there, says, effing Claude keeps breaking 2 things for every 1 thing it fixes. That's it. I'm switching to 5.5. That's maybe like some Anthropic hate, which we have a whole section for that. That's coming. And then Dex has a post. So first we'll read Ronan posted, talking to smarter folks than me, I'm convinced many of the AI folks in my timeline are full of shit. Nobody is running 20 agents overnight and building stuff for actual users. Maybe some are building internal tools or disposable software. Maybe. And then Dex says he's almost hesitant to post this, so he doesn't sound like a broken record. But people have been saying this for months now. No production software where people are on call for downtime is being written overnight unattended by agents. If it is, those pager incidents are increasing at a troubling rate. Look at the GitHub graph and the Anthropic status report graph, maybe. But please, someone prove me wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's all side projects, 0 to 1 teams. Even the best founders I know are eyes on the model outputs to fend off the slop. Still locked in, still using coding agents for 99% plus of code, and still shipping like crazy. But there's a broad spectrum between code by hand and Claude take the wheel. What do you think?
Dude, I agree I agree with this. I think so many so much grift on X on what you can actually do. I don't know if the model progression. I mean, model progression has slowed since the Opus moment, but I mean, it technically hasn't slowed. Our efficiency hasn't really slowed, at least at Mastra. But that's because anytime anybody lets Claude take the wheel, that PR doesn't get merged. It gets stuck in the PR graveyard. And there's a difference between high intent PRs and low intent PRs. And I'll tell you from our experience at our company right now, most shit that is unattended does not get merged because the person who wrote that is doing something that's oh, maybe we can do it. But they don't have conviction to see the PR all the way through. And that's a big problem. And we're actually going to talk about this later today, I'm sure. I mean, Sam, Shane, and I. But that's not efficiency. That's not being AI native. That's just you wasting money for something that'll never go to production. You have generated zero value.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference in, you and I both build a lot of throwaway prototypes, right? But there's value there. The value is we learn something, and we've had people on the team that have asked, should we just use this branch? And we're like, hell no. Do not touch this branch. This branch should be marked with it's like radioactive. You don't touch this branch. This is just to prove a point that if we let the agent run, could they build something we can see what's possible? Yep. We could see what the experience would be like, what we could build if we decided to do it the right way. And then oftentimes we do. It graduates from this throwaway prototype, which we don't ever touch that branch again, to now let's actually spend the time and craft the software. There's still there's still a bit of a craft where you have to know what you're doing. You should be using the tools. You should be moving faster than ever. But if you completely take your hand off the wheel, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Kind of related, there was a post talking about how people are, with these new AI tools, they're getting burnt out, and because they're having to focus so heavily on it's a different skill set. You're no longer writing the code. You are now feeling like you're almost a manager of sorts. You're managing these agents. And then Mark Andreessen said, when something becomes abundant and cheap, someone else becomes scarce and valuable. And I think it's, the scarcity is the people that can actually perform that task of really, you have to understand the code, but you can also kind of manage and delegate the correct way to agents. And then Dex responded, human attention is the new scarce resource. Everything you design and build needs to optimize for the most high leverage place to apply it. This is the whole game now, which I also agree with. There's we're in this weird state of agents are slot machines, but they can still produce great results, but you can't take your hand off the wheel. You need to focus and you need to be on the loop. You can't leave the loop. You have to ride the loop.
Yeah, to steer the loop too,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not just hanging on. You got to steer it. And this is kind of related. A common dynamic I observe with AI. This is Carrie, I don't know how to pronounce your name. It feels most impressive when you don't know much about the subject, don't care, or don't have a clear idea of what you want. And this is very true. I have friends who are able to build these applications, which they'd never be able to ship to hundreds of users, definitely not thousands of users. But for a dozen people, it works great. It's a great prototype. But they think it's amazing, but they've never actually understood the code that it's writing. And, Kari says this applies across design, code, legal, and more. If I don't know code well, every piece of code feels very impressive. And once you know what something should feel or look like, it becomes almost impossible to guide AI there. And I don't agree with that part of the statement. I think you can guide AI there. Yeah. I do. But you definitely can't one-shot it. I agree with that.
Definitely.
And this one's the biggest wild take of all. Why have many programmers gone back to hand coding? Because with AI, shocker, and then Hogan had a post that it's too easy to slopify a code base. What do you think?
Yep. I agree, but I don't know. I don't think you should go back to hand coding. I think you should just be on the loop and be steering, and you should be cursing at your agent and stopping, hit escape. That's what we do a lot. It's like when you are on the loop and you're reading this thing and it's starting to hallucinate, you got to reprimand this thing. You got to course correct. Sometimes you got to start a new thread because this thing is just too far gone. It's just all these little tricks.
Yeah, you got to be willing to throw away a thread or two to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
But I don't agree that people are going to go back to writing code by hand. I mean, maybe there are some parts or some things where it's easier just to adjust by hand. But I think I do think that AI does make you more productive. You have to know how to use it. You have to spend time with it. You have to stay on the loop, and you have to guide it and correct it often. And you should know every line of code that AI has written. You just didn't have to write it yourself.
Yeah.
For
I do
for the most part.
remember Eric, art on our team, Eric, like 4 weeks ago, I think Opus was just having degradation in performance. He was like, dude, I just have to write the code because every time I'm trying to do these simple things, it's just fucking up. So I'm just gonna write it. And then Tony, like 4 weeks ago, this is all EU degradation, as we all know now. He was like, I tried doing this. I stuck with our principles of being AI native, and I realized that I could have just done this myself. So there is some value here.
Yeah. And you know, we have some comments. It says, I feel like spec driven helped me a lot. Also let agents do very small things. Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna, you know, I think spec driven development still has a place, but I think everyone was trying to use it for everything. So I think it's important to align on the spec, but it's kind of like reinventing the waterfall development problem, right? Like there's a reason that fell out of favor with a lot of teams that wanted to ship fast, is because you can't plan every single thing up front, because you're going to get so far down the line and have to make some decision and change things that are going to impact 10 other things. So building the perfect spec, I don't think it exists, right? Because even the agent can't think of every possibility. If you as a human can't, we shouldn't expect the agent can. Maybe someday it will be able to.
You got to build the MVP. That's the spec.
So it's like you can build a spec, you can build an MVP. Those are like inputs into the final thing, but it's all about iteration, I think.
Yep.
And Dev did say, you know, this is more on the model comment. I think what people are actually trying to point out is that 4.7 and 5.5 were underwhelming releases. I think 5.5 was better than 4.7 in my opinion, but I agree with the sentiment there. All right, we're gonna run through a couple of these quick because we've kind of beaten this this one down. You know, Dario talks about how coding is going away first, then all of software engineering, and then you look at their uptime, Anthropic's uptimes. Their actual stated uptime is 98.65%, which if you know, like normally you strive for like 4 9s. They're not even getting 2 9s. They can't even hit 2 9s. And so, you know, questioning that their sentiment, if that's their reliability. Sunil had some hot takes on that, you know, just not really appreciating Dario's comments. And that's it. Like there's a lot going on there. I think I would say I think progress is slowing down, but we're always just one big model release away from saying, you know, having another Opus 4.5 moment. It seems like it's been, you know, it's only been 6 months, you know, 5.5 months, but that does seem like a long time in AI years.
I guess so. And people want to get shit done now. So.
Yeah. All right. Tell us about this.
All right. Drama for your mama. Okay, so for many who know or do not know, there's a lot of drama behind the inception of OpenAI. Elon famously, you know, funded OpenAI in the beginning as a nonprofit, then hired a lot of the team, and you know, now is OpenAI obviously had a nonprofit arm, and now, you know, they did like growth funds and all this stuff, and they're trying to become, they are for profit now, and that's always been a problem with Elon. So Elon has a lawsuit against them, and, you know, looks like OpenAI is excited to go at it. We'll see what happens there. But you can see, like, in this tweet from and X Freeze, he's been covering this for the last couple of days, so you should go follow his tweets, or them. I don't know who they are, but the facts are, you know, Elon put up the money, hired all the talent, and really good talent too, right? He can get talent. Explicitly, it was a nonprofit, and, you know, there's just doing research. That's why it's called Open AI. You know, doing research for the benefit of humanity. Which, you know, whether you like Elon or not, I think that's always some of his motive, is to do things that are good for humanity. The team that he creates, they want money, they want the bag They push Elon out, take control, and they essentially flip it into a for-profit machine. As we see, OpenAI makes a lot of money. And then I don't know how Elon feels about this. I think he's fine with his $1.5 trillion SpaceX IPO that will happen, but he got zero equity, no shares, and he did all the work, or so they say. So that's where it comes from. And then I believe this is his response to this. Scam Altman and Greg Stockman stole the charity, full stop. Greg got tens of billions of stock for himself, and Scam got dozens of OpenAI side deals with a piece of the action for himself. Y Combinator style. I'm sad that Y Combinator got astray in this, but whatever. After this lawsuit, Scam will also be awarded tens of billions in stock directly. The fundamental question is simply this: do you want to set legal precedent in the United States that it's okay to loot a charity? If so, you undermine all charitable giving in the United States forever. I could have started OpenAI as a for-profit corporation. Instead, I started it, funded it, recruited critical talent, taught them everything I know about how to make a startup successful for the public good. Then they stole the charity. This is the crux of it, because there is, like, if you can convert, right, then you have precedents in the law, which, American law system is like this. How many people can switch to for-profit after this, right? They're going to have that in case law.
Yeah,
And I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, how many people could get, because you can, in some cases, not all cases, in some cases, it's easy to get initial money as charitable donations for a charity,
Correct.
depending on what the cause is, right?
Yeah.
And if you can basically get free funding, right? Because there's no equity. It's not like a VC has invested in this.
Yeah.
It's like people don't donate. It's like the new Kickstarter. Is this the new
Exactly.
Kickstarter? It's just like, I can get
Yeah,
a bunch of
dude.
free donations and then I can convert it to paid someday. And so I don't really love the way that that it came out. I don't agree with it. I'll give the flip side, and I don't agree with this flip side, but I'll defend Sam and Greg here just a little bit.
You mean
is that-
Scam and Stockman?
if whatever you want to call them, I'm going to defend him a little bit in saying, imagine you're in a situation where you are building something and you realize that actually that the nonprofit route cannot fund the ambitions of the team and the company, right?
Yeah.
That's the argument, is that, okay, this is actually an incredibly powerful technology that the world needs to see. And the best way to do more public good is to actually be able to make the company exist. And the only way to make the company exist is to be able to raise money in the private market, because you can't raise donations and then go raise from VCs.
Yep. Yeah.
Now,
I mean, that's valid, right?
now I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm saying that is the argument, right? And there, whether it's like Elon or Sam's like personal issues or whatever, I'm sure, Elon wanted more control. Sam didn't want that. Like, he was controlling the company. Like, I can see, what you can probably tell what happened, right? They didn't get along. They didn't agree that what the direction should be. And Sam ran the company. And so, of course, like, forced Elon out. And then Elon's a little bitter about it, of course. And he maybe should be. He kind of started it, or at least got it off the ground. So I can see both sides. I generally agree that it seems like a bad precedent, though, if charities can convert.
Here's my comparison. It might not be a good one. Imagine if Lance Armstrong's bitch ass wanted to do the Live Strong bands, and he, also say this: charities have so much grift. No one really talks about how these people make money despite being charitable. So I'm not saying that all charities are some like golden examples, right? There's a lot of grift in these charities, whatever. But imagine Lance Armstrong's like, yo, dude, I need to sell more wristbands. I don't think I could do it in the nonprofit way. I got to become a for-profit company to sell more wristbands. Obviously a dumb example, but now you have case law that can be like, oh, well, that does sound plausible. We've seen this before in the in the law, and then it can happen. So I just worry about stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like, some like charitable healthcare organization that, is doing a bunch of research, right? Like some Alzheimer's research organization, they come up with something and they're like, okay, we got it.
Yeah.
We can make so much more money now. We don't need to give it away. Let's just
we'll be
convert.
pharmaceutical.
Yeah, now
company
we'll convert to a for-profit company. Forget all the people that funded us for years to get to where we actually found something. We finally found it. And now we're going to make a ton of money on it rather than give it back, which is what people would expect. you're going to
Yes.
give back the research, right? If you're a nonprofit. Let's talk about SpaceX and Cursor. We're just talking about Elon Musk. This was like, oh, what the fuck's happening?
Yeah.
SpaceX and Cursor are now working closely together to create the world's best coding and knowledge work AI. The combination of Cursor's leading product and distribution to expert software engineers with SpaceX's million H100 equivalent Colossus training supercomputer will allow us to build the world's most useful models. Cursor has also given SpaceX the right to acquire Cursor later this year for $60 billion or pay $10 billion for our work together. So it's basically a $10 billion breakup fee. It sounds like the reason this deal was structured this way is so it didn't impact SpaceX's ability to go public.
Yep.
I think this is most likely a done deal unless something happens, right? Something causes it not to work. There are reasons why, sometimes these deals don't go through. So there's like the contingency, but it sounds like it's basically an acquisition from what I've heard.
What do you think is going to happen? I think they're going to get acquired.
Yeah, I think the acquisition is going to go through. I think this is good for SpaceX. It's good for, there's been rumors too that Tesla and SpaceX will merge maybe as well. So just consolidate into one company. I don't know if that'll happen, but I do think, so, I think with Cursor, with the training cluster that they have, there's just a ton of things that could be done here. It makes them way more competitive. It's a big price tag, but
totally. But okay, so let's look at the Game of Thrones of it all, right? As we learned from the last story, Elon does not want Ev to do anything with OpenAI, right? So that's never going to be a partnership ever, right? So now you got SpaceX, XAI, and X. They're all kind of in this one thing, and they're going to go for they're going to go for it. Now, he also hates Anthropic. He thinks Dario's a loser. So,
and I think Anthropic stopped allowing, the team to use Anthropic models, right? That was the thing. They shut down, engineers at X couldn't use Claude models. They basically shut them out. So I think there's definitely some beef there.
Yeah. And honestly, Google is the underdog of this whole story, which is even stupid to say out loud, right? They're just chilling. They're probably going to win because all these people are just focused on, killing each other. But the Game of Thrones of it all is, okay, so you can go and get Google. And XAI and Grok models, they're not the most popular, but you see a company like Cursor that has good branding. They have a stupid IDE that people use. And they also have clout and have raised quite a bit of money. And I believe the founders are controllable by the big boss, Elon. So it seems like a good move, So yeah, I think they're going to go for the acquisition. Plus, I don't know if Cursor will get back the value that they raised. So you might as well just go for the 60 Bs and cash out.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's talk GPT 5.5. Tell me about it. What do you think? What were your impressions?
I'm using it right now because Claude is down. And so that's funny. I think it's great, but a lot of people do not feel that way. Tyler from our team likes it a lot. So, what about you?
They have a new prompting guide, which I had read through part of it. I skimmed the rest of it. So they have some ideas on how to prompt it. In that, it's it's a different model, right? It's not just an extension or an improvement on 5 or 5.4. It is different, and you need to talk to it different to get the results. And so I think there's maybe a bit of a feeling it out on how to communicate to get the things you want. We're considering in Master Code improving the system prompt specifically for 5.5 because it does require slightly different prompting. I think it is a pretty good model. I've been splitting my usage between Opus 4.7 and 5.5, trying to do some comparisons, and I think I just like 5.5 better, to be honest. It now has surpassed Opus for me, which before I kind of wanted to like 5.4 better than 4.6 because I just wanted to, but I couldn't. I think now I actually can. It's at least on par. I think there is definitely, it's not perfect. The models, I don't think these are massive jumps between 5.4 and 5.5, but I do think it is a jump, and I do feel like they gained ground on Opus, and at least for me, seems like I can get as much done with 5.5 and it feels better. Opus has been just making, ever since I feel like they kind of nerfed 4.6, 4.7 is pretty good, but there's some things where it just does some really dumb decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
And 5.5 does that too. But if I'm, if they're both doing it, then I'm going to go with the one that I feel like just a slightly better. And it seems like 5.5 is that for me. So last week, April 22nd, it was kind of teased that it was spotted in the Codex CLI and the app. And then on the 23rd, it was launched. So it's been out, about 5 days now. So I think there's been a good amount of people that have gotten some impressions. And I do believe it's a bit mixed, right? It's like some people are saying it's, like us and saying it's pretty dang good. I think you should try it. And there's others that are like, it's not a big improvement. Lovable likes it.
Yep.
So Lovable says, we've been testing GPT 5.5 in early access. Our evals show it's the most capable model for people taking on complex builds with technical depth. 23.1% fewer tool calls per request, 10% better at breaking through roadblocks, and 12.5% higher scores on our hardest benchmarks at the same cost.
Solid.
Peter Yang likes it, says, I've been doing the F0 test each time a new model comes out so far, and GPT 5.5 and Codex is the only combo that has built a working game so far. Even made a bunch of other bots to race against. What an insane time to be building.
Dude, an F0 is a hard game to build, so good for him.
And so this post here from Chubby says, from an eval perspective, GPT 5.5 Pro is Claude Mythos level, but for public use. I also seen someone on our team say the benchmarks actually weren't that impressive. So I think it depends on which benchmarks you're looking at and comparing against. It seems like it did really well on some and maybe not as well on others. Yeah. So I think you should do your research there if you're really caring about benchmarks, because I think it's a little bit mixed, but in some cases it performs very strongly. And Sam, or wait, what's his name?
Scam.
Sam Altman says, Codex hit 4 million active users less than 2 weeks after hitting 3 million. Now that is some insane growth. Yeah, that is an incredible growth rate, and I think it's only going to keep continuing because Anthropic keeps shooting themselves in the foot, and we got a whole section on that coming up. So they're resetting limits. This was funny. I just thought, before we talk more about Anthropic, apparently Codex with 5.5 was killing innocent Claude code processes, and it just says, I killed those Claude processes. So, maybe there's some maybe they wrote
foreshadowing.
That yeah, maybe they wrote it in the prompt to be like, hey, if you see Claude, just destroy it. I feel like the OpenAI website, anytime my Claude code Chrome extension hits it, it always thinks it's a bot. So I feel like there's I don't know, they don't like Claude code over there, clearly. Yeah. So this next topic is called the Anthropic Dam is Breaking. So first there was a kind of a snafu where they changed the pricing, where they pulled Claude code from the Pro plan. I think they came back and eventually said this was like an A/B test. It wasn't actually real, and that was a bad, why? And people got upset about that. Bridgebench said that Claude Opus 4.7 just regressed hard. The bullshit benchmark tests of models push back on nonsense or just make things up. And so it compares it against Opus 4.6 and basically says that Opus 4.7 is worse in this benchmark. There was this report last week of Anthropic's Mythos has been accessed by a small group of unauthorized users, raising questions about the control of the model. So, there's some heat there. And then Claude, they even admitted it. They said, over the past month, some of you reported Claude code's quality had slipped, so we investigated and published a post-mortem on 3 issues we found. Wait, so you're saying when people said that things were feeling nerfed, they were actually right, and you're finally now admitting it. I don't think it was just in Claude code, though. I think the models themselves were nerfed, because I still felt it in master code, but they never admitted that. But they did admit that at least Claude
saying
code
BS about thinking levels and bugs in the harness, and I don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't fully believe it, but they did admit at least they did some things incorrectly, and this got a ton of views. Peter Steinberger from OpenClaw fame said that Boris is saying that CLI usage is allowed, thus we had support for it, only to find out they were still blocked. It is trivial to work around, but I don't want to play that game. So it's in a weird limbo where CLI use should work, but in theory it doesn't in practice. There's another, this is in a similar vein, says this one person lost $200 in a day because the string Hermes.md was in his Git commits. And Hermes.md is a real convention used in AI agent projects. It's a system prompt. So he basically got banned for having just a commit that used Hermes.md in a past, is like multiple commits down, and Claude Code Anthropic banned him. They came back and said it was a mistake. They reinstated his account, all that, right? They quote unquote made it right. But why? Why are you string matching certain types of things?
Yeah, first with OpenClaw and now this.
And maybe it's because of this. Hermes has surpassed Claude Code in GitHub stars. So Hermes is kind of, if you OpenClaw had their moment, Hermes, all these like different agent type systems are having their different moments. And I think Hermes's angle is the memory is supposedly pretty good, but maybe better than OpenClaw. I've also heard some things that say it's not as good, but I think that's the impression. So yeah, it's definitely having a moment. Theo weighed in and said, it's generally insane that Anthropic will bill you differently if you mention certain words in your prompt or have certain files in your code base, meaning that sometimes they'll allow you to use your subscription, but if your git commit says Hermes, maybe you have to use the API.
Click on the extra usage, yeah.
Yeah, or use your extra usage, which doesn't really make any sense. Matt Pocock weighed in and says, I feel sorry for Claude Code. I know they're not the one. I'm not overcommitting, not investing too hard. I wonder if they know I'm pulling away. And then, Yassine said, it's over, Anthropic bros. We didn't IPO in time to related to the GPT 5.5 announcement. And even DeepSeek's now making fun of Anthropic's Claude. They're saying it excels in long-form generation, delivering in-depth, coherent narratives rather than relying on the overly simplistic bullet points frequently produced by Opus 4.6 Max. And then I did this post before 5.5 even came out. This was before 5.5, and it kind of went off. So this is from me.
Yeah, nice views, bro.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's pretty rare. Yeah. But, and this was actually like, I don't care. This was Tyler on our team that said this. You all have seen Tyler. He's been on the show before. Tyler said in our Slack, most of my good posts that are just come from someone in Slack saying something. Said, I switched to Codex because of Anthropic's shenanigans and discovered it's a better coding model. Trying Kimi K2.6 right now, and I'm blown away by how good it is. I still have Anthropic planned, but 99% sure I'm going to cancel it. And subsequently, as a response, I think 2 other people on the team actually canceled their Max plans, their Claude Max plans after Tyler had said this. And then there's this Claude.rip. And we're not going to have time to go through it, but
yeah, it's so good though.
CLAWD.RIP. And if you scroll down, it has great animations that tell you like all the things that Claude's messing up on, like all the ways. So if you're wondering, like, I don't get it. Why are people so upset at Claude? And it's not just one thing. It's 100 paper cuts.
So many things.
Just why are they making these decisions?
Yeah.
And so I thought, what should I do? Like, I'm just going to ask Claude what they think about this website. So I went to Claude today. This is how it responded. And if you're just listening, this is the fact that Claude is down today, or was down. I don't know if it's still down. And you got this message that says Claude will return soon. It didn't have an answer for me on how it felt about the thing. It was like trying to go for just 1.9 of reliability.
Claude will return soon in Avengers Doomsday.
All right, let's talk about open weight models that are eating the world. And we're going to rapid fire through the rest of this stuff because there's a lot to cover. Kimi K2.6, advanced open source coding came out. Seems to benchmark pretty well. So a couple posts on Kimi K2.6. It's now the leading open weights model. Yep. This was like April 20th though. And it was #1 on Design Arena. But then DeepSeek V4 came out on the 23rd. It's officially live and open source. Welcome to the era of cost-effective 1 million context length. And then now it says DeepSeek V4 is now the cheapest state-of-the-art model, available at 1/20th the cost of Opus 4.7. And then meet Qwen 3.6 27B, so it's a very small model. Meet our latest dense open source model, packing flagship level coding power. So it's a small model that definitely does punch way above its weight. Then there's this Mimo V2.5 is now officially open sourced. This was as of April 27th. Ton of just open source models. So we're not going to go into depth on those. Yeah. But if you're
get your fireworks or open router subscriptions, Go use that shit. It's really good.
Yeah, can you use it in Master's Memory Gateway?
Yes, you can.
All right, use it there.
Yes,
Go
you
try it
can.
out.
You can use it.
You get
$5
memory.
for free.
Yeah,
Probably
sign up.
$5 will take you a lot with Kimmy and
Yeah, go sign
these
up for,
things.
go to Memory Gateway, sign up, get memory with your LLM calls, you get some free credits, go try it out. All right, the commute and money land grab. Google plans to invest up to $40 billion in Anthropic. I saw some jokes around, people at Gemini team like, whoa, what's going on here? It's like, is Google giving up on Gemini?
I don't know. I hope not.
I don't think so. I think they're just trying to get Anthropic to use more
Yeah.
Google compute. It's
Well,
all
their enemy is AWS, so they all have to. It's a Game of Thrones, y'all.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
Game of
all like
Thrones.
they invest and they just spend that money with them. It's like this circular money, and then everyone's valuations go up, but it's just like the money's getting passed around, right? Google announced that they're going to have 960,000 Rubin GPUs. So it's essentially like a huge cluster of GPUs. So it's almost, 5 times the next largest, or 2 times the next largest GPUs clusters. So Amazon announced a strategic partnership with OpenAI. So again, it's all of this whole like training game, right? They're doing these huge partnerships. All these like hyperscalers are coming together with the model labs. It's all about how do we?
All Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's all this Game of Thrones game we've been talking
Allies, baby.
So I think you said this one. What was this about?
Yeah. Oh man. So this dude used to work at DeepMind, and he he started his company. It's like Ineffable Intelligence, and he raised a $1.1 billion seed round. Which is crazy, dude. Which is crazy. And it's just like a big learning factory. But yeah, like I don't know, like things like this, you're like, why is it? Because who you are, and then your mission is really good because you don't have the product out yet. But
I mean, 1.1 billion on like a 5 billion valuation or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but for nothing, nothing's there yet. But obviously very smart, right? So it's like it's the idea that if this person can unlock these things, this might be the right person to turn it into a $1 trillion company.
And I guess $1 billion is not even that much money in this shit.
Dude, it's wild that you said that, but yeah, in this, if you look at the amount of money that some of these teams are throwing around,
they should give us $1 billion. I'm down.
Yeah, I mean, we're here. Come by the show.
You know my email.
All right, OpenAI ships this week. Normally it's Anthropic ships. Anthropic wasn't shipping that much this last week, but OpenAI was. So they released a research preview of Chronicle and Codex. It allows Codex to build up memories based on your day-to-day work on your computer and then refer to these memories to be a lot more helpful. This is something that someone's going to crack, and OpenAI is trying.
Mm-hmm.
OpenAI introduced workspace agents in ChatGPT, so shared agents that can handle complex tasks and long-running workflows across tools and teams. This has been a huge trend that we've seen kind of throughout the industry. This was a big one.
Huge.
ChatGPT Images 2.0. Have you tried it?
Yep. The Ghibli's look way better now.
Really? I haven't tried Ghibli's. I don't have... Dude, I need what's my image test? Like Grayson on our team has like a t-shirt test where he has like this bar t-shirt and he makes it replace the image, like the logos of all the bars in a different city. I need a test. What's your image test?
I just take some of the pictures we have of our people in Slack and I just make new Ghibli's of them. And then I change it into different anime styles like Dragon Ball Z and some other ones that I like. But Ghibli is definitely the favorite.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's a good model, though. It seems like it's definitely a better image model, more controllable, listens quite a bit better. So, yeah, OpenAI shipping. OpenAI introduced OpenAI privacy filter. So it's an open weight model for detecting and redacting personally identifiable information. It's interesting that OpenAI has released an open weight model. That's good. Anthropic's never done that. OpenAI is still like caring a little bit about open source, maybe. It's not open source, but it's open weight.
Yep.
They've released this thing called Symphony. It's an open source spec for codex orchestration. I didn't really read too much into this, but it was getting a little bit of hype.
Yeah, there's just so many multi-agent orchestration tools, and they have their spec. They it's gonna be how it works in Codex. You can do long running agents and all that jazz. So I don't know. Whenever they do something like this, it really never works out for them. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it seems like, it does seem like OpenAI was quiet for a while. Then they all of a sudden they're shipping all this stuff all at once. But they did that in the past, and then a lot
Yeah.
of like 50% of that stuff never stuck around, and you don't know whatever happened to it. So we'll see. You can build interactive applications with GPT Real-Time 1.5, so users can control app state more naturally with voice. So they have an improved real-time voice API.
Nice.
And now we're going to go through the quick hits. This is going to be a rapid fire segment because we're running way long. Maybe AI subsidized AI subscriptions are going away? Question mark.
I believe it.
So GitHub starting June 1st, GitHub Copilot will move to usage-based billing.
No one will use it.
So that'll be interesting. So they're no longer going to have the subsidized plans. And I think, maybe with what the A/B testing of Anthropic showed on their pricing page, maybe they're going to have less subsidization unless you're paying for the higher price point. Anthropic did some research. It's not really a launch, but they did this project deal where it's a marketplace for employees in our San Francisco office with one big twist. We tasked Claude with buying and selling and negotiating on our colleagues' behalf. So Anthropic's always done these kind of interesting research type projects where they gave Claude access to control the store, control the economics of a store, and then try to learn how the model reacts in these different situations. It's always kind of interesting and cool, but it's usually not that practical. But it's an interesting read if you are into that kind of thing. Google DeepMind. We're launching Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform with Google Cloud, a platform for businesses to develop, scale, govern, and optimize agents. Another agent platform.
Yep.
A lot of them. A lot of managed agents from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google. Everyone's getting in the game. Mastra, soon to be. We'll see.
Soon.
All right. What's this?
TypeScript 7 beta is here. It's exciting. It's a rewrite. It was done in Go. We'll see how it goes. I've installed it. I don't really notice any difference, but there it is.
Maybe that's the point. It's like if it's faster, if it's slightly faster,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good. If you're a TypeScript developer, you're watching this. It's coming out. I haven't done anything with it, but it's good to know. Good to know people are shipping. It's improving.
Yeah.
Replit has announced their security agent, which provides comprehensive app security reviews in minutes. You get $5 in credits to try it for a limited time. Bitwarden CLI was compromised in a supply chain attack. A lot of attacks, a lot of hacking going on. Be careful. Protect your keys. Do all the things.
Yeah.
A lot of
don't join Zoom calls with people you don't know.
Yeah, a lot of elaborate phishing attempts. So just be careful. And then this was kind of funny. Yesterday, I reported on GitHub employees concerned about reliability and leadership. Then hours later, GitHub suffered a catastrophic outage, and then has since suffered another catastrophic outage. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
So it is not a good month to be on the GitHub team. If you look, we're joking about Anthropic's GitHub or Anthropic's status page. GitHub's is equally bad. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
So,
Oof.
do you think it's because of just the scale of usage that they're getting, because AI is just committing and PRing so much more, probably 10 times what they've ever seen? Or do you think it's something else?
I think it's a little bit of both. There's so much scale now, but then for you to operate the system and make changes, you might be having some slop too. And especially if you're using GitHub Copilot, good luck, dude.
I wonder if that's all they can use. You have to use GitHub Copilot to fix GitHub. It's it's not working.
Yeah. God.
All right. So Cognition, Devin has a new CLI that's coming out. We've been using Devin a bit. It's kind of cool. It's been cool to experiment with. So this one, China blocks Meta's $2 billion acquisition of AI startup Manus. This is the last news item for the day.
This is wild, dude.
Remember when we talked about weeks ago, we're what? And then Meta subsequently did ship some things, but we said what has Meta done recently? And then it was oh, they bought Manus. And you're
yeah.
Oh, I guess maybe that's the one good thing they did. Well, it didn't even work.
Dang.
So I was talking to, and this wasn't on Meta's end, from what I understand. I was actually talking to an engineer in China and said that, and this is not fact checked. So, caveat all this. This is one random engineer. I kind of trust him. I think he's, straight shooter. Said that apparently Manus, once they had something working, they immediately tried to become a Singapore company.
Oh,
So they tried
okay.
to leave China and become a Singapore company, so then they could eventually sell. Like they always had the plan to try to sell to an American company, and that's really hard to do if you're a Chinese company.
Yeah.
But basically, the way that they did it, somehow China was able to block that from happening. And so after the all this thing has been going on, China basically must have found a way to basically block Manus's
Dang.
acquisition.
But I thought, man, I really thought the deal was done because I think those founders made money already and are already at Facebook and stuff. So
yeah, so did they just claw that back? Like how does that work?
know.
I don't know.
We know someone who worked at Manus, so maybe we'll go talk to him.
All right.
And we'll let you all know next week.
So that's it. Make sure you are following us. If you're not already, go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that. Give us a star on GitHub, Mastra-AI/Mastra. Follow us at Mastra. Follow me at SMThomas3. Follow Abi at Abi Iyer. That's the show for this week. Any parting words before we go, dude?
Good luck. Have fun. Peace.
See ya.
Yeah. Yo, that show's a wrap. We were live in the zone. AI agents out with Shane and Abby on the throne. Did you give us that review? Only if it's a 5. Jump on the tube, make sure to like and subscribe. Yeah, news so fresh, yeah, we keep you in the loop. Get so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. Did you just drop in? Is this your first time? Make sure to follow us on X and go like and subscribe. Yeah, learn the principles and patterns in our books. The Master.ai site, give it a look. Yeah, news so fresh, yeah, we keep you in the loop. Get so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. This is the end, we all wrapped up. Another showdown, another one coming up. AI Agents Hour's done, but the news doesn't cease. Shane and Abby, we out of here. Peace.